Hey everybody, my name is Chris. The year is 1991 and this is my audio obsession. First off, I would like to thank everybody who has said wonderful things on my last videos and for the people that have subscribed. It's actually been really cool to see. Kind of excited now. I actually really want to do this now, so I can't wait to actually come up with some more ideas and just more videos and just keep going, because this is a lot of fun. I noticed other people do this on their previous or on their videos. I never quite thought about it in my first two that I did, but with the music that I got playing in the background, I probably should have mentioned what I was listening to. Not that it makes a difference, I don't know that you can quite hear it, but I'm just gonna backtrack on what I was listening to, say, in the first two videos that I did, and then what I'm going to be listening to today, which is playing right now. So in my first video that I did, I had, let's see if we can see that there without a glare. It's a German black metal band, Midwinter, and this one was called At the Sight of the Apocalypse Dragon. This one came out 1997. I bought this used, probably around 97 or 98, and really I've not heard much about them. This is the only album that I got of them, and really it's a cool band. I just don't hear much about them. Cool thing about this one is that it was produced by Midwinter and Andy LaRock, which of course is King Diamond fame. Came out on Death Records, and it's a really cool listen. Here, let's see, we'll open it up here. See a picture of the guys in there, of course looking all evil and stuff, one holding their swords. Funny enough, in some of the songs it actually has sounds of the sword going shing as they're pulling it out. So I don't know, it's really neat, cool sounding. The second video that I had Corpse Grinder in it, of the now Cannibal Corpse. He's been in there for a while actually. And yeah, let's see if we can get that in there. Paths of Possession. The album art is absolutely killer. It's hard to see on here, but if I can get my hands on a vinyl, if there is one, it is such a cool cover. This one was called The End of the Hour, and this came out in 2007. Really cool death metal, and of course with Corpse Grinder's vocals, he's freaking solid. I mean, even to this day on the new Cannibal Corpse album, just absolutely solid. Today's video, this is an album that I want put to vinyl. So if anybody listening, I could definitely see this being on, say, something like Hell's Headbangers or whatever. But this band is from New Jersey. Album's called Nothing But Hatred, Nocturnal. Now this is another album that was kind of just an under the radar, underground album. Managed to pick this thing up used back in, I would say the early 90s, mid 90s. This thing came out in 93. So I would probably say around maybe 95 I probably got my hands on it. This one got a little hole punch here, so it was a promo copy. Put out on Jail America and distributed Cargo Records. So these guys are like a technical band, really talented, but a technical, chaotic band with like a lower grade production, which to me makes it sound way cooler. Like all the new stuff that's out now, that with a technical death metal band, you've got everything is so precise, it's really clean. This doesn't have that. Now mind you, it's also early 90s, but still it's kind of the natural sound that this album has that really, really draws me in, and it's just, they got really, really catchy songs. Vocals are fantastic. I really, really want this on vinyl, so somebody's got to make that happen. Anyways, we are on, and of course none of those were 1991, but whatever, I like them, so they're in there. Anyways, the rest, here we go. So this album I picked up, I remember, in the very early 90s, and I recall seeing an ad for it, just a really, really tiny little blurb in, I believe, Metal Maniacs. And at this time, I'm kind of like, the music that's readily available to me at the time are on bigger labels like Roadrunner, Metal Blade, stuff like that. So when I came across this, I was at, I believe, Tantrum Music in downtown St. Catharines, and I was flipping through the used section, and I came across this album, and I damn near shat myself, because to me, it was hard to get my hands on, and it seemed like it was really underground, so I had to get this. And this is their debut album, and by far, this is my favorite album from these guys, and that would be Deceased, Luck of the Corpse. This album, so when I first played it, I thought, okay, this is underground, this is like, nobody's heard this, thinking like, you know, I'm gonna be the first person to know about it. But to hear this album, this is another album, a band that had technicality in their playing, but the production was kind of on the lower end, which kind of really made it cool, because you had this raw sound to it. And this, honestly, this is by far one of my favorite death metal albums that have ever come out, especially in that time period. So this one here, this one actually is a repress, which came out on, see if we can get that, Hell's Headbangers put this thing out. They did a fantastic job on this, as they do with everything they put out. And here we got a card here, we got some lyrics, and stuff on the band, whatever. Now, it was funny when I listened to this album, I noticed it back then, but I didn't know how to describe it like I can describe it now. King Foley, his drums. Now, he was the first death metal singer that was a drummer that I ever came across. So that on its own was really, really cool, to be playing this music and then also taking on the role of vocals. Because obviously, for the most part, any metal band, death metal band, for the most part was, you had your front singer, guitar player, whatever, but it was really cool to have a drummer doing this. And I couldn't describe it back then, but now, to describe it, I'd have to say that his drum set was like designed by Rubbermaid. If now picture drumming, say, like on the side of a Rubbermaid container. The toms and everything, it just had this sound. Like, he'd have, you know, bass, snare, it's going, and then he'd do Around the World, and it's like, whoa, where did the plastic material come from? Not that it took it away from the music or the band, it was just something I noticed, and it was really cool. But like I said, an absolute favorite. It is my favorite of their releases, but one of my absolute top favorite death metal bands. And here we go, we got a nice little sky blue with some white in there. So they did a really good job with Hell's Headbangers putting this out again. So when I happened to see this, I had to have it, because right away the cover, it brought back those memories, and that's kind of what brought me back into, you know, picking up a lot of this stuff, because of course, way back when. I had to get rid of it. I know I've got a tape around here somewhere where I drew the cover on and I recorded it on a blank tape, and whatever, then I had to get something else. But that's the way it goes when you're young and you don't have money. This next one, okay, so there's a story behind this one. There was a buddy of mine, his birthday was coming up. So another mutual friend, him and I were out at the local CD store, and we thought, you know what, we got to get him a birthday present. And of course, let's get him a CD. We're all into music, we're all into the same stuff, so we'll know exactly what you're gonna like. So we go to the CD store, and it was actually slim pickings at this time, but there was a cover that stood out as I'm flipping through, and I pulled it out and I looked at the name and the picture on the cover, and I thought, oh, okay, this is really cool. That he'll be into this totally. Looking at the song titles, oh yeah, he's definitely going to be into this. This is going to be really, really cool. Never heard of him before, so it's going to be a first for all of us. So we pick it up, go home, and what kind of friends would we be if we didn't listen to it first just to make absolutely sure he's going to like it, right? So, of course, we put it on. And the beginning of the song right away, we just kind of stopped and went, okay, is that electronic drums, like a drum machine? Yep, that's a drum machine, all right. Okay, uh-oh. So it all of a sudden became a little bit of a running joke where we thought, oh no, like, okay, we got to give it to him, we're going to wrap it up, but we're just going to play completely dumb, like we don't know what's going on here, and we just picked up a CD for him, and he's just going to like it. So of course he opened it up and, hey, thanks a lot guys, yeah, high fives, blah blah blah. He puts it on, and both me and my buddy start snickering, and we can't hold it in anymore. We start bursting out laughing. Turns out he liked it, so it was like, oh, okay, hey, bonus. Now, it was some years later, and I'm pretty positive he still got that original copy too. But some years later, I'd started thinking about, you know, oh yeah, bands that I haven't listened to in a long time, and this band came up. This would be Goat Lord and Reflections of the Solstice. So, if you've heard Goat Lord before, so you'll know exactly what I'm talking about with the sound. So, these guys were like a blackened death doom type band. Really, really catchy riffs. So now, years later, when I listen back to this, I'm going, oh, okay, there is something here. There's totally something here. It's just back then, in the 90s, when I'm into death metal or just metal in general, I wanted to hear a drummer. I really wanted to hear a death metal drummer. So the limitations of the drum machine kind of come out, you know, pretty evident, and it's just hard for me sometimes to get past the sound of drums that are electronic like this on an album like this. Either way, now I can appreciate it when I listen back to it, and even today I listen to it again, I'm going, oh man, I forgot how good these tunes are. It's just trying to motor past those drums. But whatever, if that's the worst thing on it, then so be it, whatever. The vocals on here, if you picture a zombie getting gouged out in the chest with a spoon and blood gurgling in his mouth and throat, that's how you kind of describe the vocals, which to me were freaking-tastic. Totally suited the band. And really musically, it was actually really, really good. Like I said, it was just the drums I just could not get past. But I can do it now, and I'm sure if you listen to it, if you've not heard it, it's going to be the first thing you point out, but if you kind of listen past it, this thing is actually pretty much a cult classic. It really kind of made some, you know, stir in the underground, and for people to get their hands on it now, it's just kind of neat to have. So when Hell's Headbangers, oh, sorry, that was the previous one, Nuclear War Now Productions, when they put this one out, I saw the pre-orders come up for it, and I jumped all over it because right away it brought me back to me and a buddy thinking we're getting this cool birthday gift for somebody, and it turned out it was less than stellar. But anyways, now I really appreciate it, and I kind of think it's a fantastic record for what it was. Moving on. So now this next one, I recall seeing the advertisements for it in the magazine, Believe Metal Maniacs again. I love the cover of it. I even used this cover in art class, just recreating it. So the cover itself really drew me in. Had a really cool logo on it too. I hadn't heard it. I only saw the reviews, and it seemed really, really good. So I picked it up. Now, musically, this album is absolutely incredible. One of my all-time favorites as well. Like, okay, everything in my collection is my all-time favorite, or I wouldn't keep it around, right? But anyways, this was a big album for me. It took me a bit to digest, though. And there was only one element that was giving me the trouble, and it was the vocals. And this album, Confessor. And it's their Condemned album. Now, I'm sure you've heard this album. For the people who subscribed, who are into this music, you know this album. And right away, the vocals, like, it was the pre-adult, my balls haven't dropped, really high vocals, like, really high. So when me and my buddies were into the music, like, your Death, Deicide, what have you, Go Lord, we were into the guttural vocals, something just nasty sounding, and then you've got vocals here that are extremely high pitched. It just took me a bit, but it grew on me like crazy. I ended up listening to it continuously. A few of my friends, I don't think they kind of had the same sentiment towards it, but still, for me, it slowly became a favorite. And when I'd really listened to it, the drummer on here, Stephen Shelton, unfreaking believable. His drum techniques, he's not, arms a flailing all over the place. He's extremely technical in his time signatures. I think kind of how they went might have impacted them during the time that this was coming out, with the early 90s death metal and stuff like that. You had a specific sound, and a lot of it was, the Florida scene. People were kind of aiming towards that sound, and that was what was really popular at the time. So for a band like this, even like a band like Atheist, where they weren't just straight on, metal, death metal or whatever, they had something else to them. Like, these guys here had their technical time signatures and just really, really, almost mathematical. And like a band like Atheist had those jazz influences. I kind of feel it kept bands like these on the outside of the circle looking in a little bit, where they were popular, they had plenty of fans, but they just didn't have what was trying to be marketed at the time. And for a band like this, or even Atheist, if you wanted to be, say up front moshing in the crowd or whatever, they'd have these time signatures where you're trying to mosh, and all of a sudden you're whoa, hey, I'm not on time here. How do you get into it? You just want to pound your head, and it was harder to do that. But when you sat and listened to it, you go, oh my God, these guys know what the hell they're doing. They're incredible musicians. So Scott Jeffrey with his vocals, it took me a bit to get into, but really, for what he does, his bloody range is up there. Up there. And he, even watching videos, concerts and everything, man, this guy, I've got a DVD somewhere. He knows how to freaking belt it. And belt it he does. 100%. Anyways, this one, let's see. Okay, this, you Catch that? Came on a nice white vinyl. This one is on earache. And it was re-released in 2015. So I was very happy to get my hands on this. Okay, let me see here. Okay, so this next one I just got in today, but had when it was new when it came out. And of course, once again, I got rid of it. And I know I've got a cassette around here somewhere too where I drew the cover and I, dubbed it on a blank tape and then traded in the CD to go get more stuff. Whatever. But I managed to get my hands on it again and I am super, super excited. Pull it out here. So this would be, aside from Cannibal Corpse when they came out with Butchered at Birth with Chris Barnes' vocals all of a sudden going really deep when they started off with their thrashy roots. This was probably the first album, because I got this one prior to Butchered, where the vocals started to become hard to understand. Where other death metal vocals, yeah, it was hard to understand some of them, but you could pretty much pick out the words, where this band all of a sudden was starting to kind of make it so that you couldn't really understand it. Really, really deep and really, really cool. So this would be Broken Hope, Swamped in Gore. Catch that? Now, when I saw this thing was being repressed, instantly, as soon as I see, because I had seen this with their other cover release. Oh, actually here. It's actually inside here. See if I can get that. So I've seen editions where it was released with this on the cover, but when I got the CD, this was what I had. And I remember catching it in the store, flipping through the section, and instantly the art grabbed me. I mean, you got a flaming skull, of course, and it's called Swamped in Gore. What else could you... What else could you need from a death metal band? Now, let's see here. Show you, it's got kind of hard to see, but it's got all the lyrics. Got that art there. Trying to get it without the glare here. There's a picture of the band. But yes, this, an absolute, oh man, it's hard for me to actually kind of say who's better than who's my all-time favorites, because like I said, they're all in my collection, so they're all my all-time favorites. But this album brings me back once again as a kid, and for hearing Broken Hope for the first time, I was just like, oh my god, I think I've just found the heaviest death metal album that was ever recorded. And yeah, this it was just something else. Absolutely unbelievable, and I'm so glad that it came back out. Who was it here? Flogger Records did the repress for them, and yeah, an absolute classic in the death metal catalog. A must-have, and I'm absolutely ecstatic to have it. Once again, just brings me back to those days back in the 90s. Because I find a lot of the albums, the death metal bands that are out now, which, I mean, are far surpassing ones that were, starting out in the genre for technical ability and whatnot, but man, it's just the beginning of the scene for me, because I was I didn't start just prior to it, so I was kind of just in it at the time, which it was an unbelievable time for music for me anyways. So I guess I'm gonna try not to make this thing go any longer than it has to. So yeah, now I'm not sure what I'm gonna plan on doing for my next one. I know I got a couple things in recently. They're not all brand new, they're just new to me. So maybe I'll start diving into a few of those, and we'll see how it goes. So anyways, I'm very grateful for everybody that's checking out my YouTube channel here. I'm still trying to work out the nervous bugs here to make it seem like I kind of know what I'm doing rather than talking out my ass. So yeah, thank you very much for watching, and hopefully we'll see you soon with another video. Thanks.